So today we'll talk about IKEA's marketing strategies. So when IKEA initially focused on globalization and expansion, they kind of kept the same static strategy, which wasn't really working. When you need to globalize, you need to be adaptable. So their focus in Europe, which is where they started it in Scandinavia, was a consumer base or target market of 20s and 30s, and they had really recognizable merchandise, which was helpful there. So that's why they had 227 stores in Europe, but the 50 stores in the United States was not really comparable to that. And that was really because in America, the furniture is much larger, and they weren't used to that. So they had to change their processes and develop different marketing strategies to kind of sell their furniture, because it was decently successful there, but they weren't really growing in that market like they hoped. So IKEA really needed to focus on GSP, or Global Strategic Planning, where they looked at internal and external environments so they could really develop an effective strategy. An example of GSP would be in 1992, Macro Engines Global Inc. actually expanded, but it became so diverse in its products that actually competed with some of its customers. And this actually happens in the company I'm interning at, West Pharmaceuticals, because we supply for a company in pharmaceuticals called BD. However, they actually compete with us when it comes to contract manufacturing and stuff like that. So you have to be careful with that competition. IKEA actually does benefit though from learning effects, because it does produce 10% of its products in-house, so it kind of allows for the transfer of knowledge to its suppliers, which can increase labor productivity and decrease costs. However, this could hinder IKEA's growth if market suppliers have this knowledge from them and then are giving it to competitors that they supply to as well. So IKEA does have to be careful there. However, China demonstrates further adaptability even more in the United States by IKEA. So IKEA attempted to enter China's retail market in the 2000s, and this represents kind of the greenfield investment of foreign direct investment, because they're starting up more IKEA companies from the ground up, and they're not just acquiring or merging with other companies there already, so it can be a little more costly. However, this can create further jobs, which allows for insight into the culture there and further relationships in the market, which can be beneficial. And then managers can actually increase firm value, and they can do this by encouraging their employees to gain new skills that they may not have had before joining IKEA. And IKEA really focused on cultural implications here. So, for example, they changed their store layout to be more relatable because it looked like a Chinese apartment. Also, they ended up having a balcony section in the store, and a lot of Chinese apartments have balconies because it is such a populated area that's really their outdoor space. So this was really developing and growing their target market. And also in other locations abroad, there's ample space for parking and the store in general for IKEA. But in China, it was most effective to locate IKEAs near public transports. And IKEA actually went so far to develop a delivery system for individuals that couldn't gain access to transportation in the area. So this is really showing their adaptability in China. And it also focuses on the cultural differences, which expands their profitability, which is really the rate of return that the firm makes on its invested capital in foreign direct investment, and profit growth, or the percentage increase in net profits over time. And IKEA's implementation into China really demonstrates the idea of location economy, or localization strategy, due to their optimal location and their differentiation with competitors there. So it really recognizes IKEA's core competencies. And IKEA really does need to stick to the idea of maintaining their processes and their quality though, because it can become really easy to want to reduce costs in developing countries, but they need to make sure that they keep that quality that they're known for. Thank you.